children of the Most High, ever-loving, living God. Welcome back to Marie Speaks God's Grace Bible Study. And I've actually been wanting to do another video on the books I have read so far this spring, actually winter season. So we're going to get into that. I hope others enjoy this. And if anything, I hope you get a couple of books to read in your own downtime, because if anyone knows me knows I'm a huge encourager on reading books and taking personal time and going outdoors rather than just sitting and playing on your phone and watching TV. So let's get into the books I read this winter season. The first book I want to talk about is actually a book from a series of books, and then I found out there's another book in the series that I'm gonna have to get eventually. So one of my favorite movies is Gone with the Wind. Yes, I'm one of those. I am old school. I love it. If I could have been living in those times, obviously in my mind I would have been decently well off. I would have loved the dresses, loved the glam, loved sitting around and being like, oh, and swooning. That would have been so for me. So a while ago I first read the book Gone with the Wind, and of course the book is so much better than the movie. Then I read the second part to it, which is Scarlet, for those who want to see that. And for the record, there is a movie version of this book. I watched it on YouTube. It is completely different than the book. I like the book much better, but I found it on YouTube and I watched it. The movie, in my opinion, isn't that great, but the book, yes, I loved it, loved it, loved it. It has a completely out of the box ending, a good ending that I like, which led to me finding and learning about a third book in the Gone in the Wind series is Rhett Butler's People. Now, Rhett Butler's People is kind of his version of his story, his upbringing and how he grew up to be the wealthy man that he was, and him finding Scarlet and falling in love with her and their whole drama of their relationship. And it has a completely different ending and actually a quite bit different scenarios than the authorized expanded version of the series Scarlet. I have not seen a movie on this part, although I think it would be interesting, because who would play Clark Gable these days? I don't even know. I don't think there's a ruggedly handsome man like him these days, because, you know, Rhett Butler was one of a kind, wasn't he? Yes. The next book that I read was Little Women, and I loved Little Women. I liked it a lot better than the movie, although I did enjoy the movie, and I watched the movie before I read the book again just to compare. In my opinion, the book obviously gives more detail, but I did like how the movie went in more detail about Jo and her becoming and falling in love with the professor when she went to school and everything like that, and how they ended up together. But as far as the family dynamic on the sisters, I liked the book so much better than the movie. It was so much fun to read and enjoyed, and I looked forward to reading it every single day. This book was first published in 1947, and this one has a reprint in 1982. So that's the version of this book that I read. I think the publishing dates say different things about the book, and then there's different edits and so on. So I think publishing dates matter. The book that I read going into history is Those Who Loved. Now, I don't know if many remember me speaking about this book before, so I wanted to talk about it. Those Who Loved is about the story from the journals and researching in history of Abigail and John Adams. I absolutely loved this book. It is refreshing to me to read a woman and a wife's and a mother's point of view of what happened during the whole, constructing of our nation. it was refreshing to see how she lived, and it actually goes in a bit of detail about going from gold to paper money and about the struggles that were going on within the people. And then I loved the history references, and I'm the kind of person who, if they mention the Federalist Papers and they mention about the gold system and about building houses in that time and about, you know, the burning of certain cities, I read it in the book. I like to write it down in my notes for later. Sometimes I highlight it in the book, which I know book lovers hate, but that's what I do. You don't want my books after I had them. And then I look it up later online, and it just helps me learn. So this book is by Irving Stone, and I loved this book so much. I went and got a bunch of other books by Irving Stone because he does a lot of biographical novels. I hope I said that correctly. And so it just has me wanting to dive more and more into history, which leads to the next book that I read. Actually, this book is a school history book of Texas. Now, this book is over 100 years old. I love older history books. This is actually like a student primer. So after you read a chapter, it'll ask you questions to kind of review, you know, your reading comprehension and so on. This book, I have, I think, 2 more chapters in the book, and then we'll be done with it. But this book actually really helped in me understanding how the great country state of Texas was formed and put together, and it actually helped me do a little bit more research on Texas Jewish history, believe it or not. From reading this history book, I was able to find inconsistencies where individuals were said in other books, how they were Jewish, and the Spaniards and the conquistadors coming over. And for me, it put together the pieces of the Native Americans and the Spaniards and the Texans. That's my point. So I wish history books would be more specific on where individuals came from or their ancestral origin, instead of just lumping them together and saying, oh, the Mexicans, oh, the Spaniards, oh, the Texans, or oh, the British. Because when they just lump them together based off of skin color, for instance, individuals, for some reason, when we read history books, if someone has a darker skin color, they'll say mulatto or black. And obviously we know just because someone has dark skin doesn't mean they are black, which people tend to lead towards thinking are African Americans, right? So in my personal opinion and observation, I wish that more books, especially history books, would be specific about the original cultures and heritage of individuals, because I believe that's vital. Like, from reading this book, I learned how a lot of our Jewish ancestors had a hand in putting together our nation, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, even for the state of Texas, as well as the whole country of the US of A, including the great country state of Mexico. Isn't that amazing? All this from one history book. Well, also with researching too. So thank you, HaShem. I love this older history book. So it's by Baker, Potts, and Ramsdale. So if anyone gets a chance, you can actually find this on thriftbooks.com. I will put a link in the description box. I got this from a used library because Miss Marie be hunting for old books. So next I'm going to get into some other books that I've read this season, and I think you all might enjoy. This is not a history book. It's not a religious book. It's not, it's kind of a, I don't watch TV, so I rather read books. This book, before I show it to everybody, I told the author I would say it is a mix between, if Hallmark and Skinamax had a baby, it would be this book. It is one of those women's books. So if that offends you and you don't like it, then you probably won't like the review on this book. So this book is by Kathy Gray, and it is not my type. In my opinion, it is kind of a funny Hallmark version, Skinamax version of a book where, the big city girl falls in love with a country cowboy. They have backs and forth. And, they end up falling in love and being together forever and getting, cows and milking on a farm while she's wearing Chanel or something. I don't know. Who knows? But anyhow, I liked this book. It was witty. It was funny. It was one of my guilty pleasures in reading during my off time instead of watching TV. And it was just a good time. I like it. So again, this is Not My Type by Kathy Gray. I hope you all check it out. I think you might enjoy it. So the next book I enjoyed, and I'm gonna have to copy and paste it because I don't have it here. I actually mailed it to one of my family members because I enjoyed it so much. It was just a fun book. It was sweet. I actually went to a reading of the book, so that was nice. And so I was like, you know what? Let me send this beautiful book to one of my family members. I think they would really enjoy it. So the name of the book is Claire, and it's about a beautiful little bird at the library. She's kind of the library bird, and it was just a sweet, sweet book. It's a children's book, and it's by Amy Schultz. So if you get a chance to check it out, I will put a screenshot here so you can see it. And it is just a sweet, carefree book. I love it because it's a book without an agenda. It's a book that is free of any ulterior motives. It goes back, in my opinion, to the wholesomeness of reading with your children, spending personal time with them, and just enjoying the presence of a moment, which I feel many of us have unfortunately gotten away from with, just day-to-day living, the busy life, the busy schedule, the phones, the radios, the internet, the pop-up messages, and so on. I encourage others, if you get a chance, to get the book Claire, by Amy Schultz. I think you will like it. I think you'll love it, and you will want some more of it. All right. Now, I want to keep this video short, so I'm going to go over some of the biblical books that I read. So this winter, on the Bible study, we are actually reading out of the book of Deuteronomy. We are getting into chapter, I believe, 19, 20, and so on. So in my own personal time, I have been reading out of my Tanakh and out of my Hushmash, right? And so I read through, obviously, I read through the book of Numbers, the book of Deuteronomy, and then I went on reading out of the book of Joshua, Judges, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, and now I am in the book of Isaiah. Now the book of Isaiah, whoo, y'all. For me, it is a difficult read. It is taking some time. I often have to read chapters over and over and over to make sure I understand, but I do enjoy reading the books of the Tanakh. I get a lot out of it. I normally read them during the Shabbat, of course, but I also like to read them in my downtime when I just want my prayer time with our merciful Father who is in heaven. Hallelujah. I make my tea. I will light a beautiful candle, and then I will just open my book and start reading. And I'm reading using the Stone edition, but also I've been using the Stein Schultz version of the Nevraim. All right, so I've been reading out of that one too. So I like them also. I think not only are they beautiful, well-made books, I enjoy the notes and the commentary because, again, I do my highlights, I do my little pencil marks. You don't want my books after I've had the books. And then I do my reading. So I hope that helps. If you get a chance to check these books out, I suggest you might enjoy another book I really, really enjoyed reading. I wanted to get into reading more about Jewish women and the history of our prayer book, which is the Mincha prayer book, right? So this led me to researching other prayer books. So a book that I really enjoyed is Out of the Depths I Call You, and this is by Rabbi Nina Beth Gardin. I believe I'm saying that correctly. I apologize if I'm not. But it's a book about married Jewish women, and so it's a book for married Jewish women. So the prayers are focused on obviously women who are married and they're Jewish, and this is the synopsis of the reason or the history behind the book. In 1786, Yi Spitzpe, I probably said that wrong, Cohen, presented his bride with an exquisite gift, a book of psalms, blessing prayers especially for her. The volume focused on the concerns of a married woman, in particular her responsibility to create a Jewish home and bear children. The prayers recited were for preparing the bread, lighting the Shabbat candles, the mitzvah of ritual bath or mikvah, and the events surrounding pregnancy, childbirth, delivery, nursing, and their recovering to include. And I love this book. I think it's an exciting book. That is just the synopsis of it, or brief synopsis of it. What I like about this book is it gives right here, you can kind of see, I hope, you can see the Hebrew writing, so you get to practice your Hebrew reading, so that's always nice. And then right here, it has the notes. It has the translation in English, by the way. I know you can't see it very well. I apologize. Oh, there you can. And then you see the notes of the history behind it and while it's said and how it's said and any questions that arise from it. I love this book. Oh my goodness. I couldn't put this book down. I almost finished it the first day I started reading it, but I was like, you know what? I need to take it back so I can actually study and get what I need to get out of the book instead of just, I wouldn't say rushing through it, but sometimes you know how it is when you're reading books and you get excited about them. Sometimes you can overlook certain things, and that's why, you know, it's good in my opinion to read, especially a study book or a prayer book, multiple times. So I encourage others, if you like this book and if you want to read more about the history of married women, Jewish married women prayers, I'm saying it, probably not. Prayers for Jewish married women. That sounds better. All right. I encourage others to get this book, and actually if you look online there's more history about the whole story behind the book, and you can actually see photos of the original book. So I hope others check this book out as well. Enjoy this video. Like I said, I've been wanting to do this video for quite a long time. This is just a brief review of the books that I read this winter. If you get a chance and you want to check these books out, I will leave links in the description box so you can purchase your own version or gently used version of the books and support writers, support used book places, and, you know, keep reading. Take personal time with each other and, of course, with our God. Till next time, God bless.